Happy Tuesday. We are back at it with another week. We only have 4 more days if we include today until February vacation. And we've got a lot of fun stuff coming up. So today I wanted to share with you just a little bit about what we're doing this week. And then also I wanted to talk about really how I teach sight words or trick words or heart words or whatever you happen to call them. Currently. So I actually have, it's actually my most popular video on YouTube. It looks like this right here. And it's how to teach sight words according to the science of reading. So all of those strategies, I made that video like 3-4 years ago. All of those strategies and tips and techniques are what I currently still use. But there are different ways just based on the program that we teach with, that I kind of infuse them into the classroom and kind of just how I teach it. So I thought I would take today to explain that for you. Before I dive into that though, yesterday was the 100th day of school. And here's a little video, I put it over on Instagram Reels of how I looked during the day. I wish I could share what my kids looked like because they are so cute when they dress up. And we did a bunch of fun activities. So I thought I'd also share just a little bit about what we did on the 100th day. And then I'll go into the heart words. Also, I'm wearing my pink because we have Valentine's Day coming up at the end of the week. We have our little hearts, and I bought this adorable sweater from Altered State. I bought that I already want to wear so bad, but I'm saving it for Friday. So, okay, let me clean up my desk a little bit because I just walked in here, and then I will pop in to share 100th day activities and sight word stuff. All right, let's go. All right, copies are ready. Things are good to go. So let me pop open the 100th day slides from yesterday just so I can show you a little bit about what we did. Okay, now I will point out that 100th day was supposed to be last Friday, so we had a snow day, and the plan was it was only supposed to be half a day. So I kind of kept the activities to half a day ones, so that way we could still, because there's still a lot to do and I want to assess things before we head to February vacation. So after morning meeting, the first thing we did is we read this book right here, 100 School Days. It's kind of like a math book. And then we talked about our 100 days together. So I said we will reminisce, and we talked about what that word meant. And then over on, I can't show you now because there's kids' names over there, but on my whiteboard, or on my chart paper rather, I made a list and every student shared one of their favorite memories from our first 100 days together. And then I wrote their name next to it and I shared that with parents, which was cute. Next, because it was phonics time, I had everybody get their whiteboards and markers and they spread out around the room. Now I've shared this type of activity before, but I have a bunch of images here and they were challenged to see how many they could write in 100 seconds. So with their whiteboard and marker, we have drum, block, sling, frog, plant, sink, trap, sled, wink, and clam. So a good mix of things. We have a lot of blends, we have glued sounds, and then students had 100 seconds to race and write as many as they could. After that, we did this fun activity. These are some fun examples from a colleague of mine. Her class had done it in the past, but basically I type out the number 100. I'll show you it in a second, just on a Google slide, and then they get to have 15 minutes. We listen to some calming music, and we take the 100 and we turn it into something. So these were some examples that students did, and then I'll also go ahead and plop some pictures here of my own kids and what they decided to make. But it's such a cute, fun little activity. For a super quick random reference, I just opened up a Google slide. I typed 100 in the font Oswald. I made it bold and size 400. Printed them out and it was perfect. Students cut them out and then I gave them another piece of white paper, or they could use white construction paper to put these on and turn into something adorable. So those two activities were kind of during our phonics block. Again, mostly just kind of fun things. And then we had a movement break. We almost always have our movement break now anyway. This is my favorite one. Actually, my son Calvin's first grade teacher did this with them on their 100th day a few years ago, and I loved it. This is chair fitness for older people. So they have a whole song and dance on here that they choreographed, and students just sat in their chairs and they faced the board and they did their chair choreography from their seats, which was really fun. And then I had students get up and we kind of worked through this together. So reach the sky 10 times, touch your toes 10 times, jump high 10 times, and so on. which brought us to writing. Now, this beginning part, like I told you, we had this for 15 minutes, we did a story, and we did this. So we were a little bit later than our normal like block schedule, which was fine, but we did keep writing here, and we just did a when I am 100. So first we brainstormed some ideas. I wrote some sentences on the board that students could use as inspiration, and then they had 10 minutes to write and illustrate, and these are always fun. I put a little smiley face on them and sent them home for parents to giggle at. After writing, we kept our regular snack and recess, and then we still came in, did a skip counting video, and did our calendar. Of course, our calendar was a big, big day because, let me open it up, you know already, that the calendar is on the 100th day. If you keep track of your place value, now we're on 101. It's a big, huge day, so we got to talk about taking all the ones, turning them into 10 10s, how we can't have 10 10s, and putting it into this 100. And now when we count it up, we just say 100. And today we did 101. And then we talked about the same thing about making $1 over here with our 4 quarters. Now I could get a dollar bill. I think that would be fun, but I like students to get to know the coins. So we really kind of talk about how 4 quarters equals $1. So after calendar and our skip counting, this is where we did our kind of fun 100th day stations. These, I believe, are from Smitten in First or Smitten with First, something like that. I will link them down below. They're all from the same packet. And we did them last year and it was a lot of fun. So there's a pattern block group here where students make a party hat using pattern blocks. I have a bunch of Legos, so they were challenged to find any way that they could to make the number 100. I bought a bunch of silver pipe cleaners and they had to make glasses. And then we have the 100 cup challenge where we have a bunch of Dixie cups over here and they have to make a tower with those cups. So then obviously students' names are blurred out, but I just printed out these little like instruction tools for each one, put them in a bucket, and students were spread out around the room. So we had Legos making 100 here. Over there was our pattern blocks. At the back table was the glasses. And then over here in the reading corner was the 100 cup challenge. I will put up some pictures here on the screen of my students doing their 100th day stations, and that was a blast. After the stations, we had lunch and recess, and then we came in for WIN. For WIN this week, we have our independent station, which is words with ARR, and then a read and draw where students are practicing those consonant blends, and then this build the number. For this one, let me kind of zoom in. Students need to look at the 2-digit number, they need to draw the 10s and 1s, and then write the number in expanded form. So that was a very telling one for me. We're already on Tuesday, so eight or so kids have already worked through it, and it lets me see who still needs help in that area. For writing, since we had the Super Bowl this past weekend, we watched a whole video about Super Bowl, just different facts from the past, and then students had to write down 2 facts. Again, these are always in my seasonal writing prompts, my mini writing prompts. I'll link them down below. And then again, from my place value packet, we have spin in color, and this is a game that they play with a partner. So they go ahead and spin the spinner here, and then they have to find that number in some sort of way in the grid. So we have the number as 10s and 1s, we have expanded form, we have it written out as 10s and 1s. Is there another one? Oh, and then sometimes for 47 at least, it actually spells 47. So they have to find the different ways. And our reading group, of course. We had regular specials, and then the rest of the day was pretty normal. We did our HMH lesson, we have our vocabulary, and then we read our story, Day and Night, which is a nonfiction story. The only other different thing was during our reading centers, we had 2 kind of fun ones that we did. This right here, I'll go get the picture so you can actually see what it looks like, and I'll explain that in a second. And then students had already started this, so it only took a few minutes to finish, so I'll tell you about that in a minute. And then in Seesaw, I just searched and I found this fun little activity where they had to use that color and color in the numbers 31, 41, 51, and 61 with blue, the other colors with green and purple, and it makes the number 100. And then when they were done with that, they went down to Lexia, and I met with some students, of course, during this. The balloons was something I had actually put out in the morning on their desks for them to color in. They had to carefully color in 100 balloons. One of my teammates had done this before, and it's just a really cute and easy thing. So after they color in all the balloons, what I did is I took a picture of the kids acting like they were being taken away, like acting like their hand is here and they're being taken away. I'll insert a couple of pictures here for you. So in the afternoon when we went to our stations, Most of them had already colored the balloons, so if they had to finish that, they would do it. And then they cut out their little bodies and they attached it to that page. So then they attached it here and they took it home. They loved it. They thought it was really cute. They looked like they were being taken away. And that was pretty much all we did for 100th day. So it was a lot of fun. It was cute. The kids had a ball. Like I said, I wish I could show you pictures of them dressed up. If I can find a picture of my own Calvin, he dressed up when he was in 1st grade, I'll put it here because they're just so cute. I love it. I wore my costume pretty much up until lunchtime, maybe right before lunch, and then I had to take it off because the wig was making me itchy and hot and sweaty. Okay, I'm going to grab a couple more things right now, and then I'll come back and tell you all about how I teach heart words using using foundations, which is what we use right now, and how I might switch that up, and just the slight differences when we will be using HMH, which will be either next year or the year after for the phonics portion. So give me a sec. All right, hello. For me, it's been a little bit. For you, it's been about a second. So let's talk about, we had the whole first half of the video was the 100th day, and now let's talk a little bit about heart words or trick words or sight words, whatever you call them. So first and foremost, we use, just because this kind of sets it up, my class here in 1st grade, we use the curriculum Foundations. It is a Wilson program, and they call sight words or heart words or high frequency words trick words. So that is what they call them. I believe, I don't know if this is from them or if someone made this up in correlation with it, but it's like taking that tricky part and making it a sticky part. So it's tricky at first, like that heart part, and then making it stick. So that's a phrase that we sometimes use. Really over the last year, I pretty much call them heart words. That is how I teach it. So therefore, that's what I want my students to call them. There are actually very few heart words or words with heart parts, which are going to be those irregular sounding words once you teach students the skills they need to be able to decode words. First and foremost, when you are thinking about your sight words and which ones you want to teach, if you have a program, you really want them to align to the program, because many good phonics programs will include decodable texts that include those heart words after they've already been taught. So not only will they have words with the skills you're teaching, but they will also have heart words that you have previously taught, which makes your life a lot easier. If for some reason you do not have a curriculum that already does that for you, or that explicitly teaches heart words in some sort of sequential manner, then what I do have, because what I suggest for you to do is to make sure you take the high frequency words that you're planning on teaching for the year. So for me, I might use the Fry first 100 words, right, for 1st grade. And what I do is you sort them by skill, because most of the, and you've probably heard this a million times before, so I don't want to repeat myself. I have other heart word videos, but you want to make sure, because most of these words that you're teaching are actually decodable. They're not actually heart words, really. So you can take all of those words and you can sort them into the skill you're going to teach them. And then if you teach them during that skill, for example, when I am teaching about open syllables, I can teach the words me, he, she, see, not see. I was just going with rhyming there for a second. But those open syllable words, you could do that at that time. Now, of course, you can teach it earlier. You can teach it earlier, and that heart part will be the E on the end of the word. But once you teach that open syllable, then you can also go back and say, hey, look at these words, me and he and we and she. They all follow this open syllable rule. They are not heart words anymore. I don't even have to remember that now that I know this rule. So really what you want to do is, if you don't have a curriculum that already does this, you will want to look at all the sight words you're planning on teaching and sort them. If you don't have that availability, that time to do all that, or even have a place to start, I have this freebie right here where it has all of those words and I already sorted them for you. And then it shows you which ones are going to be heart words, like which ones are permanent heart words, not temporary heart words. I also have over on TPT these heart word slides and worksheets. I'm going to show you a couple of these in a minute because this is what I use to help students practice along with some other fun things. But this here also has that scope and sequence that I just shared with you at the beginning. And it's also clickable because every single word on there has that worksheet or that practice sheet to match. Now that also has a bunch of slides for teaching about each heart part, but they only have it for the real heart words. But I do include editable slides that you can add whatever words you would like. So after that whole spiel, let me show you how I teach heart words with my first grade class. Okay, so I just pulled this up for tomorrow because tomorrow we're introducing 3 new heart words or trick words. So these are the slides that I have made that are already aligned to foundations, of course. So it says, let's learn a trick word has sounds that may not be spelled the way we would think. We must memorize the heart part of the word. Now you'll notice here, and I'll tell my students, that we don't have a heart part. Why is that? Because we have already learned ER. If we go back a little, let me go back, here we go. We have gone over the R-controlled vowels, and we know that ER makes so therefore it's not a heart part. When I see this, let me go back. When I see this, we have and I put the bracket there just to make sure they know that the words are, or that the letters are combined here. It's like one sound. So then we always want to give it in a sentence. So I say, here's the word her. I point out there's no heart parts. I point out our rule about ER, and then I read it in a sentence. Is that her bag? Then we look at another word. We usually only do about 2 to 3 words at a time. So I do it in this order. So I do all 3 words first. Next, we have the word over, and I'll point out right away, I see a heart part. So with the heart part here, instead of it's going to say over. And we point out that it is a heart part because of that right there. And then I read a sentence, come over here. Next, we have number. Now here, I will point out to students that it is a 2-syllable word. We'll clap it, number. Everything I can tap it out and I can spell it. I can also read this. What is your telephone number? So we kind of really break apart each word as we learn to read it. Then after that, I have students read the sentence out loud. Now these sentences are from foundations and they're not exactly decodable, but many of my students by this time in the year can read the words invite and can read favorite. Everything else they do know how to read. So we have invite her over here. So I'll give students a minute to decode it in their heads. We will all read it together and then I will share the picture. And then we have 2 is my favorite number. And we'll read it again in a sentence. This part here is where we practice writing each word. So we always want to practice reading the word and writing the word. So I will have my students get out their whiteboard and marker, or sometimes we get the bumpy board and a crayon. Sometimes we might use sand, but we're going to practice writing this in some sort of way. And what we have here, of course, are our sound boxes. Now I went and got one of the whiteboard markers. What you saw on the screen is that these sound boxes are already there for students. So the first word, I would say, everybody spell her. Let's tap it. 2 sounds. That's why there's 2 boxes. So here on their board, they would write just like that and sound it out. If there is a heart part, they're supposed to mark it. If there's not, they don't have to. Now, some of my friends will just write it like this, no problem. Some of my friends will try to draw boxes. It gets a little tricky, so what I like to have them do instead is draw lines. So if they hear 2 sounds, they can draw lines, and then they write it. It helps them spell it like that. Because again, even though this is a trick word, it is a high frequency word, we can tap this out based on what we know. Next on the screen, we had over. And of course, I was writing this on the board as they kind of write it. So they try to write it, they practice it, they flip it, and then they check it with me and make any fixes they need to. Over, let's tap it. O-V-er, 3 sounds. O-V-er. O is just saying its name, so we should really know that one. It is a heart part because it doesn't say ah that we've learned or anything yet. We haven't learned a rule around this. So we have O-V, and is going to be that ER at the end of our word. Over. That's a little bracket there. They don't have to draw that again. And our last one is number. Ooh, this one's long. Number, 2 syllables. So first we will clap the syllables. Number. First syllable, num. 3 sounds. Next syllable, bur. B-er. 2 sounds. So here together, we write out the whole thing. And then again, they will check it with me. So that right there is exactly what this slide is meant for. It is the explicit teaching. We have the explicit teaching of the reading of the word and each part, and then the explicit teaching of the spelling of the word and how we do that. Then we go ahead and we actually add it to our journals. So in Foundations, they have a notebook where they can write down all their high frequency words and they're supposed to reference it as they need to, as they write. I typically have them reference the back wall here instead of taking out their notebook. So let me just show you those cards real quick. Here's one of the cards that I'm planning on using tomorrow when we introduce her over in number. And as you can see, these are all from Ann Gardner, 2021. They are a bunch of slides. I liked how they were color coded, and they have like little symbols. They have like the silent symbol. They'll put like this S here has a Z. So it's just a nice little visual for my students, which I actually really like. And you can see that unlike me, I wouldn't have put the R as a heart part on my slides, the ones I shared earlier, because we've already taught it. But she does have it here, and I don't mind that when I put it up here, they will have all the little heart parts, because for my students that still need to look back here, it's fine for them to see that. And I've mentioned this before, but this wall, let me back up a little. Okay, that's better. So I have mentioned this before, but obviously this wall is pretty darn full, and I am not going to keep up every single heart word that we have taught this year, because my goal is that students can spell them without looking up here. So whenever we learn new words, like the word her, and I have the over and number card over at my desk, when we come up here and we add them to the wall, which will be tomorrow, we need to find 3 words to take off this wall. And I ask all my students, and we kind of come up with which ones we should know how to spell by now. So my guesses are she, me, and he, which have been up here for a while. And most of my students know how to spell because that E just says its name. My guess, and where I'll kind of lean them towards, is those 3 will go. And then we will put up our new words there. So this wall is currently stacked and will be getting replaced as we learn new ones. Okay, so that is how I explicitly teach students how to read and write new heart words or trick words or sight words, whatever you want to call them. Now, once they've been explicitly taught, of course, students don't just boom, remember them forever. So how do I keep spiraling it and reviewing it so students know how to spell them over time, right? So let me share some of the activities we use to kind of spiral these things and review them and have students practice. Okay, so something that is already built into the slides that I make for each day of Foundations, we have our letter review, or our sound review rather, and then these are also some new sounds that we've learned. So we practice these every single day. And then these are our new sounds. All of these ones we will practice each day. And we also do about 3 times a week our sight word review or our heart word review. So let's review, say the trick words quickly and remember the heart part. Now, obviously throughout the weeks, these get replaced and students have to, boom, look at them. They have the hearts there if they need them, and they need to read each word. So just a quick kind of practice of all of these heart words is always built into these lessons. Now, another thing I do is after students will add it to their journals, I'm going to have them come to the rug. And here I always put up maybe 10, sometimes 15 different heart words that my students are going to be detectives with. So here I'd put up these words, and we are kind of going to think about the sounds in these words. We're going to do a little like word dissection here. And I will look at these words. First, I'll have students read them in their heads. We will review them out loud. Talk, my, walk, by, her, over, number, would, could, should. And then I'll ask students, right? We have these little detectives, and I say, okay, my detectives, I am looking for 2 of these heart words that end with I, the sound I. Or I might not even say 2. I might just say, I'm looking for heart words that end with the sound I. And they would have to determine that it is my and by. So again, they're reading the words, they're really looking at them closely and trying to match them. Now, sometimes we'll just do this through talking. Other times I will have students actually take their whiteboards and markers and write down my and by, helps them practice spelling it, on their boards, and then we can see if they're correct. Then I would look and I say, okay, I am looking for some heart words that have 3 sounds. Ooh, so there could be a lot. So again, they're going through each one. T, ah, k, that one's one. W, ah, k, that one's one. O, v, that's another. W, ud, k, ud, sh, ud, all of those. So I might give them more time. I could say I'm looking for a word with a digraph. We only have 1 up here. I could say I'm looking for a word with an R-controlled vowel, We have her and number. So really just throwing these words up here and having students dissect them, especially by talking about the sounds. So explicit teaching of how to read the words with the heart part, explicit teaching of how to write the words with the heart part, spiral review of just having students read it, and then also that quick little detective game is such an easy way to have students review those words. And again, if you have them bring over their whiteboard and marker, they're practicing reading them too. So now let's just go into a couple activities that students can also use to practice this. Now, I will typically say that during my phonics centers and my literacy centers rather, I typically have students working on phonics skills and less high frequency words because we do spiral them in a lot. But there are certain times, like maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, I will have them do a high frequency word specific practice game or activity. So let me show you what ones I like. Okay, now for a simple worksheet type of thing, this is what I was talking about earlier. These are my slides with the practice pages, and there are over 200 different pages for all of these words. So here they are already divided by skill. I told you I have this freebie for you linked down below. So the decodable ones are here, and then heart words are here. So let's see, digraph WH, we're gonna do a decodable word when. So when they get to the word, they have to say it 3 times, when. How many sounds are in the word when? They will color a dot for each box. So we have w, eh, n. They will write the letters in the sound boxes and put a heart if there is a heart part. And then they will write the word 3 times and then do some visual discrimination down at the bottom to try to color in all the words that say when. So all of these worksheets are the same. They are set up like this, but with their own specific word. And again, I like this because regardless of whether you said there's a heart part or if there's not a heart part, they have to put it there based on what they know and based on what you've taught them to do. So all of these are linked within this packet. So this is something that I will sometimes have them do. I can tell you I did this for the words could, would, and should, because those are really tricky for students, so some extra practice was needed. I also did this for walk and talk. All right, another fun thing I like to do is, of course, on Fridays, I love to play some fun games. We usually do phonics games, but sometimes we will do a heart word game. And so these are seasonal, and I just put these in the SJT Literacy Club not that long ago because I wanted to make them editable. So it is winter. If we click on winter, you'll see the different types of games. We have roll, read, and color, where they just roll and read the words and color it in. We have sight word bump, so they'll go ahead and spin the word here, and they have to put a cube on it to match. We have sight word spin, find, and write. So here they have to find the word here. They'll find it in the grid, and then they actually write the word also on the recording sheet. So they'll write it here. So they're practicing writing it down. We have sight word roll and race. Take turns rolling the dice, moving along. They have to read the word correctly. If they land on the sled, they move back a space just to kind of gamify it a little bit. And sight word connect 4, where they will spin the spinner and cover up and try to get 4 in a row. So many different games that are all kind of simple practice games, but what I like about these is on page 2, you can type in whatever words you want. So I just did this last week. We needed practice on should, could, would, walk, talk, and I put very in there. I don't remember if it was in this order. But once you fill those in, what I like about this is it's going to auto-populate it throughout the sheet. So here are the fall ones. They have the same games for each. I can go back here and press winter again. And here we go. We played roll, read, and color, and they all just auto-populated in. So you can pick the game that you want your students to play. Here they are for sight word bump, ready to go. And it makes it nice and easy, so you don't have to fill in each box yourself. You just type in the 6 words you want them to practice. And last but not least is a game that I have talked about so many times, and you can see the cards are used and abused here, but this game is Find the Fish. I have a lot more cards, but these are the ones that are still out here. So students have to read each word, and with a partner, one student will turn around and close their eyes, the other will hide the fish under a word, and they simply go ahead, read the word, they have to say it correctly, so partner 2 would say into. What I like is partner 2 has to read it, but also partner 1 has to read it because they have to find into and show you, nope, no fish. She, nope, no fish. Why? You found the fish. And then they switch turns. So I love Find the Fish. I've talked about it a million times. All right, so there you have how I explicitly teach students the high frequency words, not only to read them, but also to write them. And then some of my favorite kind of games and activities for students to play. when practicing them. If you have any questions about this or comments or anything you want to let me know down in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer anything for you. Anything I kind of talked about, and gardener's cards and the games, anything I've talked about, I will try to link down below so you can grab them. If I forget a link, always let me know in the comments and I'll try to put it up there real quick. I try to, when I rewatch the video before it goes live, I like to go in and add all the links, but sometimes I forget one. I hope you enjoyed my Heart Words video and my 100th day video. As always, if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up so I know. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel and click that bell. That way you're notified of every new video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.